It might be the world's most famous regatta, but it's also a spectacular festival of sail. New, classic, carbon, wood, speed, rock and roll. This was Cowes. Plus a fun event that could set a new trend for the future. And of course, plenty in Dock Talk. Once the summer got underway and into full swing, it got really busy up here in Europe. And one of the busiest events of them all was Cowes Week, which just so happens to be one of my favourites. After all, it's on my doorstep, but I've also done it for many years. But apart from that, what I absolutely love about Cowes Week is the huge variety of classes that take part, from wooden classics like the XODs right up to the carbon fibre rocket ships. So, this episode of OnCourse is going to take a look at some of the wide variety of sailing that takes place at Cowes Week and some of the cool stories that were part of it. And when it came to carbon fibre and Grand Prix racing machines, there was no question that the focus of attention this year at Cowes was the Ep21 class. This is a fleet of 30-footers that has exploded onto the scene. One of the success stories here in the UK on the south coast has been with a class that started a long way from here, Cape Town in South Africa. And that class? The Ep31s. We saw a fleet of 7 of them at Cowes Week last year and they had some great racing. This year the fleet is considerably bigger. So I've come along to find out what makes this class tick and why it's been so appealing. So who better a person to talk us through the Ep31 than the class captain, Dave Sweet. Dave, good to see you. Thanks for bringing us down here to have a look at the boat. I think the first thing I want to ask you is, what's behind the success of the Ep31? Lots of people have had a go at making a 30-foot boat work and they haven't really succeeded, but this one has just taken off.
The brief was no holds barred boat that sends it basically, and we took the boat from Cape Town, brought it up here, went sailing, and we started winning on IRC in the UK. So it kind of went from there. You know, once the boat started winning on IRC, heads started turning. You know, timing was right for a 31-foot boat really to take off up here, and you know, it's been going really well on the Solent. It's exceeded all expectations for us. I think we've sold 35 boats now. We've got 19 at Cowes Week. Yeah.
And it's a high performance boat, but from what I'm hearing, it's actually quite a relatively straightforward boat to handle. We'll get into the detail in a minute, but it's a relatively easy boat to handle.
Yeah, I mean, we've had people come over from J109s and King 40 type heavier boats that have always traditionally done well out here on the Solent, and yeah, I mean, they're finding it's a whole lot less load on these boats, and they're actually quite grippy downwind, and you know, you don't have to be a super strong, you know, prop forward to get one of these around the track. So yeah, the loads are a lot less, they're more forgiving than what people think, and yeah, a heap of fun to sail. So
the first thing that strikes me about the boat is, I know she's sitting at rest, but quite a simple, quite a straightforward boat. It's not cluttered with control lines all over the place, is it?
Yeah, it's decluttered. A lot of that comes down to the fact we've got sheet reelers down below that just sort of transform the boat. That was the first thing we did.
Sheet reelers, what, taking up the slack of the
Yeah,
tail?
so you don't have a rope bag and you're not coiling spinnaker sheets or halyards. You just pull a string and the sheets get sucked away, and you know, that's sort of from the TP52 world, and that's trickled down into this boat. There's a simple drop line system on here. One person on the end of a string line, pretty simple. It comes out here at the back of the boat. You pull the string line and the chute comes down. Pretty similar fashion to a 52 or a 72. We're dropping these sails 2 boat lengths out from the bottom mark, you know, and you don't even think about a drop anymore. You don't even talk about it. You just come into the bottom mark doing 20 knots and you pull a rope and let a halyard down and she comes down.
How many crew do you sail with?
Yeah, so there's a 595 kilo weight limit. We tend to end up sailing with 7 people. You know, if you've got anyone my size on board, you're kind of stuck with 7 people. Smaller crews get to 8. I mean, of course, moving forward, we can't help but talk about the Mark Mills, you know, patent ramp decks, which we see on all the cut boats now. So, you know, this is a nice, clean deck. I think that the biggest advantage of this was actually aero, and that's why we're seeing it on all the cut boats now. But it's a nice Mark Mills feature, and he'd argue he was the first to do it. I think the biggest surprise to most people is how well it goes upwind, and then obviously downwind speaks for itself. You know, it's a bow up, sendy boat, and you don't see too many people wiping out really, which is incredible considering how big the prod is.
Down below, it is small, as you'd expect, but again, it's pretty simple, isn't it? It's pretty straightforward. I was expecting to find a much more cluttered boat down below.
Yeah. No, nice and clean. I guess the main clutter really is the reelers. It's got a pretty decent engine. I mean, you've got a motor back, and in South Africa they have to motor back into 35 knots at the end of the day. So a really nice engine there. Just looking forward, pretty simple bow trampoline which you put the spinnaker on top of, and there's actually the ability to put a toilet down here for you know, those who need to use a toilet down below. So yeah, enough room to shelter really, and you know, get out of the wind. But I wouldn't be rushing into my first offshore on this boat, but I'm sure it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Someone's going to take one of these offshore.
Back in the inshore world, and after a week of great racing that included some big names among the crews, it was Russell Peters that took the overall win in the Cape 31 class. But it hadn't been easy.
To win is very, very pleasing, especially against the level of talent that there is. There's a lot of people that have won a lot of trophies, but there are also people sailing with their daughters, and I've got 2 of my daughters on board, and one of their boyfriends. It's good. It's marginally too professionals for my enjoyment, but there is certainly a good standard of people in the fleet.
I freely admit that the temptation to focus on carbon and high-tech is often too much for me to resist. But during this Cows Week, I stumbled across a story that really made me smile. So anybody who's been following the Black Group overall results will know that this boat, Ziggy, as you know, fun, is currently leading. Owned and skipper by Kevin Downer. Kevin, how did you get on today?
I think we've done okay, but with the rating system, there's a few boats behind us. They should be in about 7 or 8 minutes behind us, and we'll be okay. So yeah, fingers crossed. I think
you've been having a hell of a week.
It's been great. The boat's been going great. In the breeze, it loves it, and in the light, it seems to be okay.
We're so used to Cows Week being sort of the focus is sort of carbon and expensive and the rest of it. And with all due respect, this is not at that end of the scale.
Well, no, because if you look at our rig, I help out with the Etchells for David Franks, and when they tear their sails and break their masts, we use their recycled sails on our boat. Hence, the bottom batten is so low. It's an old Etchell mast. It's an Etchell jib. It's an Etchell mainsail. It's an Etchell spinnaker. It's an Etchell spinnaker pole. Joe Richards gave us a SB20 bulb to go on the bottom of the keel because we kept capsizing. So, but no, it's good. We love the IRC trickery.
And that's fantastic. And I mean, just overall, I mean, what do you think the boat has cost to put together?
£1,000?
No,
Really?
Yeah, I don't think much more than that. No, because the sales are time. But the sales were for free. The masts for free. Yeah, it's not much. The boat cost about £500 in the first place.
That is fantastic. I have to say that is probably made my week hearing that. That's fantastic.
We lined up. We did the IRC Nationals, so we got the whole boat all measured up and endorsed, so we could do the IRC Nationals. And we were the smallest one out there, but we were the only one with white sails. Everything else had carbon. It was like,
Fantastic. Good on you. That's
good recycling. Good, just to keep going.
absolutely. Well, it must be one of the greenest boats out here.
Maybe. Certainly recycled.
Cowes is well known for attracting the rock stars, and during the week I caught up with Ben Ainsley, who'd swapped high speed on foils for more conventional racing, which provided a great opportunity for us to get an update from the top dog himself. Meanwhile, Steve Ansell caught up with the most successful female Olympic sailor, triple medalist Hannah Mills, who had some important news of her own. Yeah, you just come hot foot from Plymouth.
That's right. Yeah, we had a good time down there. It was great. Sail GP and had a good race. We didn't quite make the podium race, which is a shame, but it was really good to see so many people down in Plymouth supporting the league and the way that's all progressing. And we had the Duchess came down with us. We had a special Commonwealth race.
I saw
which
that.
was good fun.
Yeah,
really.
How did that go?
Well, it's good. We managed to win that one, which was maybe we had a little bit of help from our Kiwi buddies, but the Duchess was great. She really enjoyed it. She's a great sailor. I think she sailed across the Atlantic a couple of times. She's done quite a lot of. I think she might have even done Cowes Week at some point in the past. So she knows her way around the boat, and she was steering the boat for most of the race.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, she's been out with you before, hasn't she, in the previous Cup cycle?
Yeah, she came out on the 45F when we were down in Portsmouth training, and that was a pretty lumpy, fresh day, and those boats don't really have a cockpit. They have a tiller instead of a wheel, so that's probably more full on than the F50. So she definitely, I think she liked the advancement in the boats, and she was blown away. I think the biggest thing for people that haven't been on those boats, it's not just a straight line speed, but when you start turning corners to an attack or a jibe, the G-forces that you get are pretty extreme. That sort of kind of blows people's minds a bit.
Yeah. Now, you're on Bertie Bickett's Fargo today, which is a lovely boat, but I suspect you're not going to get quite the same G-forces around the corner.
I don't know. It depends how many times we broach out. There's a bit of breeze forecast, so it might happen. Yeah.
So what brings you up here for Cowes Week?
Well, I mean, I live on the island, so I'm here with my family, and obviously a huge fan of Cowes Week, and having had the chance to compete many times over the years. So yeah, I mean, Birdie asked me to come along, and it's been great to build a relationship with him over the last few years with the yacht club, the squadron, and the America's Cup. But also, we're here launching the Athena Pathway program with Hannah Mills, and that's a really great new initiative that we put together to really push our teams forwards with the Youth and Women's America's Cup, and also the Women's Initiative in Sail GP, giving those young people the opportunity to come through, really talented young sailors. How do they get into Sail GP? How do they get into the America's Cup? Providing that pathway. And of course, women in sport is really prevalent at the moment with the Lionesses win on Sunday. And we've got the most successful ever female Olympic sailor. She's such a great ambassador for the sport, so we're really proud that she's leading this pathway program for us, and we're just helping support that.
And the Women and the Youth America's Cup, it's a big deal this time around, isn't it?
It is, so it's a specific Women's America's Cup, first time in the history of the Cup, and the Youth Cup as well. I mean, we actually won the last Youth America's Cup with back in the BAR team 2017, so we want to retain that trophy, and we want to win the inaugural Women's America's Cup. Why not? Again, we've got a fantastic strength and depth in women's sailing in the UK, so let's get out there and win that and try and win all three.
Yeah, fantastic. And how's the program going? I mean, we're still quite a way out from Barcelona, but there's never a day to waste in a cup cycle, is there?
The program's going well. We're readying our test boat to get down to Palma later on in September to get that in the water and get testing. Got quite a busy schedule there of testing items to run through, and we're starting to see all of the teams now get some form of vessel in the water, be that an AC-75 or a test boat or an AC-40. We're expecting a Lingy to be sailing in Barcelona quite soon on the AC-75, and Team New Zealand to get their AC-40 in the water in September, as well as Luna Rosa with a test boat, and ourselves will be out with a test boat So September should be a sort of moving month in America's Cup, if you like.
Yeah, no, that sounds really exciting. That's going to be good, isn't it? Excellent.
Yeah. No, it's a lot going on, and Barcelona's a fantastic venue. We're really, hats off to Grant Dalton and the team. We're obviously, as challenger of record, we're a little bit involved in those venue discussions, but everyone's just really excited about that venue. It's great for the Cup. We saw in Valencia 2007, arguably the most successful America's Cup in modern times, and certainly in terms of the number of teams and the viewership and so on. So building on that for Barcelona is going to be great.
Yeah, I think actually Valencia was the only cup that actually returned a bonus to all the teams, didn't it? A financial bonus. I mean, we'd never heard of that before, but.
Yeah, and I mean it was good times back 2007 in terms of the world economy and so on. Right now it's a bit of a tricky time, but hopefully the world will get itself back on its feet a little bit more by 2024 with some of the sort of geopolitical issues that are out there. But regardless, life goes on, and we're looking forward to a cup in October 24, Barcelona. For us now, we're a third generation team, so we've made a lot of changes. We've obviously partnered up with the Mercedes Formula One team, which is a huge leg up in resource for us, and we've really got to try and make that count.
Yeah, well, we look forward to seeing it all develop. In the meantime, you've got to get ready to get your head around speeds that have got a fewer digits in them today. Oh, actually, you've got to get hold of the helm off Bertie first. That's the thing you've got to do first.
That's probably the biggest challenge I've got in the near future. But yeah, it'd be good. I haven't raced on one of these boats before, but there's some good competition out there from what I can see. And yeah, the speeds aren't quite the same as the F50, but it's still the same sport. It's still about getting the boat in its groove, finding the right wind, patch of breeze. Certainly around here, as we all know, staying out the tide or in the tide, depending which way you're going, and all those sort of traditional challenges that we love in the sport.
Yeah, excellent, brilliant. Well, good luck. Thanks very much for taking the time, Ben.
Thanks,
Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
All the best.
Well, perhaps from one celebrity to another gold medalist, 2 golds and a silver to her name, Hannah Mills popped in to us in our studio.
Yeah, well, Athena Pathway Programme we're launching today, which is based around the Women's and Youth America's Cup that's been announced to take place in 2024. And so, yeah, we've bought an ETF26 boat, which is out on the Solent today, sailing around, and we're essentially trying to provide more opportunities for women and youth to get into this type of sailing in the elite end of the sport. For any females or youth sailors out there watching that might want to take a part in what we're trying to do, the website goes live today, and there's going to be an application form. So anyone who's interested in getting involved, please let us know.
You're going to be inundated, surely.
Hopefully, that's the plan. Yeah, we've got lots of plans, so hopefully. I think what's great about sailing at the moment is you go to sailing clubs and you speak to the kids, and they're just buzzing about foiling. They just want to go foiling, and that's part of what the Athena Pathway Programme is trying to do, is inspire that next generation to grow our sport in the UK and beyond, but particularly in the UK, and bring that new next generation into the sport of sailing.
Building any high-performance boat is a challenge. Balancing the need to keep the weight down on the highly loaded machine can make life hard. But among those that have created a reputation for delivering this time after time are Valencia-based King Marine. One of their latest boats is the extraordinary foiling monohull keelboat Flying Nika. This is a concept that relies entirely on building to a very high level of accuracy, exactly the territory that King Marine excel in. According to her designer Mark Mills, every 100 kilo delays takeoff by 0.1 of a knot. From her early sailing trials, it was clear that the combined design and construction goals had been accomplished. Getting onto her foils just as predicted provided the first evidence of a machine that was already on her way to her target speeds of 30 knots upwind and 40 knots downwind. This is clearly a 60-footer at the leading edge, precisely where King Marine liked to be. Diverse performance systems are used to the advanced world of marine electronics and hydraulics. They have a long list of successes to their name, from numerous TP52s, Mini Maxis, Imoca 60s, Volvo Ocean Race winners, super yachts, classics, and so the list goes on. One of their latest projects has been with the 85-foot Cat Allegra. Her skipper believed that the original hydraulic configuration was holding back the boat's performance and commissioned Diverse to upgrade the system. Using their in-house engineering expertise, Diverse handled the complete design, manufacture and installation of the hydraulic and electrical systems. One of the keys to their success is that they create impressive high-performance systems using off-the-shelf parts from leading industry brands and integrate these with custom manifolds and pump systems. The result for Allegra was a 250% increase in power and an equally impressive step up in the boat's performance, along with a class win in the recent Aegean 600. In the spar building world, the need for accuracy is paramount. And when builder and client are in different hemispheres, trust plays an especially important part too. And it's this relationship that Hall Spars have worked hard to achieve with luxury builders Southern Wind. Because Hall Spars know that the first meaningful voyage for many new yachts from this yard will be a 7,500 mile passage sail from South Africa to Europe. This means that the rig has to fit exactly, first time, and be totally reliable. Hall Spars' seamless tube construction keeps the weight and cost down, while achieving a technically advanced spar that requires little, if any, need for fillers or fairing. In addition, all of their tubes are created in a single cook that achieves a fully consolidated laminate. Just a few of the key factors that ensure accuracy, reliability and trust between two companies at opposite ends of the world. The XOD once again was the biggest class at Cowswick and, many would argue, the most fiercely fought. And this year was no exception. My two favourite stories in this class involve one man who spent the week in shock and a team that were on a personal mission. Now, if you look down the results sheet at the moment in the XOD fleet, you'll find that there's one Jonathan Clark at the top, and I'm pleased that I'm with Jonathan Clark right now. You were just saying earlier on to me that that's not where you normally expect to be.
No, we were 5th last year, and that was really pushing our luck, so we're very happy to be where we are at the moment.
Yeah, that's still, I mean, 5th is a really good result as well, isn't it? It's always a competitive fleet, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very competitive. The top end is just one bad tackle, one bad decision, and you're down in the 20s. Really that tight.
And what have your results been so far?
We wangled a win on Saturday. First win ever for me. I've had 3 seconds, but never a first, so really enjoyed that. And yesterday we were 6th. So we're doing well. We're doing very well.
Nice one. How long have you been sailing an XOD?
Too long. No, an XOD probably for about 15 years. Then before that was an Etchell, and before that was a J24. So I call these floating coffins. I know I shouldn't, but once you're in them, you don't get out of them. They are gorgeous. They are fantastic yachts. Everybody should have one. Everybody should sail one.
What do you think? I know it's early days with 2 races on your score sheet, but is there anything that you can look to that you feel that you're doing right that has got you those positions?
Beating the better sailors, yes.
And how?
Luck. No, more luck than judgment. The guys at the front of the fleet, I don't want to say who they are because they know who they are. They are brilliant. And to be up with them after 2 days is probably, peaked too early.
Well, they do say better to be lucky than good.
Thank you. I agree.
Well, good luck for today. We'll be watching.
Thank you very much.
Jonathan went on to finish 3rd overall, an impressive performance. But winning the week would go all the way to the wire as Ben McGrain, Jamie Stewart and Russ Clark found out. So Richie Faulkner's XOD 166 Swallow put in a second today to deliver another impressive result. They'd won the race the previous day and worked their way up the points table to go into the final race just 2 points off the overall lead. They needed to beat Claire de Lune, XOD 33, Max Crow's boat. They were just 2 points in front. And as Richie Faulkner's boat crossed the line, Claire de Lune was nowhere to be seen. Well, Ben and crew, well done. I mean, that was, you look quite relieved actually. You normally take these things in your stride, Ben, but you look a bit stressed.
It was a pretty tricky race, to be fair. We had a long, what should have been a run back across with the tide sweeping everybody, and the wind was dying, and John was coming down behind us, and we were just trying to stay calm and get through it all. But yeah, Cowswick, it's a different kind of regatta, but yeah, A lot of emotions, really.
He steers quite well, doesn't he?
He does a very, very good job. So, I mean, for me, it was a real team effort with these boys. I mean, Russ's navigation was on there, and it had to be this week. It was difficult, really difficult. But then Ben, he does it very well. So.
And you work your way up through the fleet during the week, didn't you? I mean, it wasn't straightforward at all. You've had to grind this out right to the end.
Yeah, we haven't sailed with each other before. So, Saturday was day one as a crew. And we just worked on it, done all the basics right, keep the good chat going. And, the boat, as you know, has a lot of history, and it's something we wanted to do, and we've done it. And it's pretty emotional, pretty special, and a really, great day.
Well, what a superb win. You just see there the boat that had it within their grasp, Claire de Lune, but just couldn't string it together today. And they talk of it being an emotional win. And it is, because the person who used to own this boat was Simon Russell, or better known as Fumesy, who sadly passed away. And the co-owner, Richard Faulkner, always wanted this boat to go and do Cowes Week again. And in fact, Fumesy had won Cowes Week in this boat in 2019. So, they're all understandably chuffed at having been able to deliver another win in what many consider to be the hardest fought class at Cowes Week. While the XODs are one of the most fiercely fought fleets in the Solent area, the Red Wings are also hugely competitive. And Steve Angsell went to talk to their class captain to find out a bit more about this extraordinary class.
So if you cast your imagination back to 1896, the Queen, of course Victoria, would have been celebrating her Diamond Jubilee, often obviously visiting here in the Isle of Wight. What else would have happened? Cars were doing for the rich only. But there was a fairly young boat designer who would go on to found a dynasty of yacht design, and that's Charles Nicholson. And Charles Nicholson designed the Bembridge Red Wing. I think it was called a Red Wing then, but Joe Robertson is the Honorary Secretary of the Bembridge Club. We're based here at the Bembridge Sailing Club, and here is a Red Wing. 125 years old. They look actually very sleek.
Yes, they are. So this is the second generation of Charles Nicholson design. So the original design were a little bit smaller, and they were replaced in 1936-37 by a new design, which is the design you see here today. We still have some of those wooden boats that date back to that time, to 1930s, and some fiberglass boats built to the same design that have been built over the last 30 years.
Tell us about sailing the Red Wing, though, here in Bembridge, because Bembridge is notoriously lacking in water at the time, as it is now.
Yes, so they were designed to be quite shallow draft. They don't draw a huge amount, about a metre, and also they've only got 200 square foot of sail area because you don't have that deep keel. So they were designed for Bembridge and the sands and the shallow water, and because they're a development class, their rigs have tended to go upwards. There isn't much sail area. You want to make the most of the canvas you've got.
Yes. It's technically a one design, but it isn't, because you are allowed a maximum of 200 square feet of sail, whatever it is. And however high you go, the narrower the mainsail's going to be, yeah?
Yes, exactly. So the hull is one design, they're all the same, albeit some are wooden, some are fiberglass, but it's the same design. The rig, historically, there's been a lot of experimentation in the rig, that's what they were known for. But over the years, it's become more and more standardised. There've been some great sailors that have been in the class. Jonathan Jansen and Vernon Stratton, to name two, in the 70s and 80s. So they tended to innovate, and people broadly copied and followed them. So what you've got today is that very tall aspect ratio red sail, with all sorts of gadgets and bits of string to pull.
Yes, hence the Red Wing.
Exactly.
Is it tricky to sail?
Yes, I mean, they're very sensitive boat. They're narrow boats with that tall rig. Quite hard to control the main in heavier weather. You've got running stays, check stays, obviously back stay, to try and keep control over a main that the top of it is an awfully long way away from you. So I think they're hard to sail well, and I'm certainly not one of the people who's at the very front of the fleet. But yeah, I think they are tricky boats. But there's also a lot of people come into the class as well who don't necessarily have a huge amount of keelboat experience, and they get to grips with them. So hard to sail well, but easy to go out and join club racing. We've also got a facility here on the Red Wing Quay that means, relative to other keelboats in the Solent, they're relatively inexpensive to run. No boat is cheap because we own our quay here and our craning facilities, so owners can do a lot of the work themselves.
Efficient and reliable in-boom mainsail furling has been the goal for designers, builders and rig manufacturers for many years. Mainfurl have been among those delivering practical solutions. Set up in 2019 and based in Denmark, Mainfurl build in-boom furling systems in glass or carbon fibre from their range of 8 sections that are suitable for 35 to 90 foot boats. Their carbon booms are said to be so efficient that they weigh the same as a conventional aluminium non-furling boom. They also state that all of their systems allow you to furl the mainsail in or out without having to go head to wind. For boats over 55 foot, they've partnered with Reckman to produce hydraulic furling systems, while for smaller boats, electric furling is an option. But whatever the size or system, working closely with sailmakers also helps to create efficient sail shapes too. Hiking hurts, fact. But if you're in a boat with tow straps, you'll know it's an essential part of generating power. And if it's an Ilka, you'll know that the ability to hike harder for longer is one of the few natural advantages you can exploit in a strictly one-design boat. In the build-up to the last Olympic Games, Musto and the British sailing team believed that there were gains to be made in producing the perfect hikers. Mickey Beckett was one of a small group of sailors that was selected to help with an intense development program to achieve this. Be it the 6 different types of neoprene or battens that are laminated between various layers, the Kevlar on the outside, or special lining materials on the inside, these are clearly advanced hikers, and an item of clothing that Beckett will tell you played an important part in his season's successes. When Europe's endless summer eventually comes to a close and the evenings draw in, we'll be counting down the weeks to the next season. One way of getting there more swiftly will be to head to the Bacardi Cup. Held in Miami's Biscayne Bay in March, it's little surprise that this event has been so popular for so long. For 95 years, it has not only provided some superb racing, but for those stuck in long, dark winters, it's offered a shortcut to the new season. Famous for hosting the Stars, the event has expanded in recent years to include other classes such as the J70, Melges 24, the Viper 640 and the VX1 that race in the Bacardi Cup Invitational Regatta. Even better news for overseas sailors is that the popularity of the event means that charter boats are available. All in all, a great way to trim back the winter months. It's September and it's showtime, as some of the biggest and the best events in the world prepare to unlock their turnstiles. The Genoa Boat Show is one of the longest running and is now in its 62nd edition. The theme for this year's event is described as riding the wave of the future, with a focus on showcasing cutting-edge technology and sustainable innovations. There will also be a focus on some of the major racing events, such as the 1100-mile Round Italy race and the Mille Vela. The organisers of the Ocean Race, which is due to finish in Genoa in July 2023, will also be present, revealing their plans for the grand finale of this famous round-the-world race. Plus, in addition to the familiar range of exhibits from across the sport and industry, the Genoa show will play host to a range of conferences, workshops and technical seminars. The show will run from the 22nd to the 27th of September. Over the years, we've got used to seeing giant asymmetric sails flown off bowsprits, hauling their carbon rocket ships downwind. Double-figure straight-line speeds and big boats on the plain have become the norm. But it hasn't always been this way, and during the week we had a reminder of what downwind sailing used to be about, and how some are not just comfortable with a metronome ride, but love it. It looked quite nerve-wracking at times.
Yeah, but the Contessa's long-keeled, so when she puts in these death rolls, it's still very controllable. It looks awful, but you've got to sail quite badly to let the boat broach. So we didn't do any broaching today. We did a lot of death rolls, which gets everybody quite excited. But as long as you strap everything down tight, it's all quite controllable.
How long have you had Blanco?
Oh dear, must be coming up to 40 years. I've stopped counting now. I'm just beginning to get the hang of things, yeah.
Well, it certainly looked like it. What do you like most about the Contessa 32?
Well, these conditions. It's just such a lovely boat to sail. Going upwind, it just knifes its way through everything. It's very stable, very wet, being so narrow-gutted, but it doesn't get thrown around so much as the lightweight flyers. So it's a very, very comfortable boat to sail upwind, and even in light airs, it's a pleasure to sail. And it's a very good weight carrier. That's why we carry a full keg of real ale with us all the time. We don't worry about weight. There's some boats in the class strip everything out that they can within the rules, but it is essentially a cruiser racer.
Stepping away from Cowswick for just a moment, but remaining very much on location, another interesting event had taken place a few weeks earlier. On the face of it, a simple regatta for racing Jeannots, but the Sunfast Cup had an interesting twist. Anyone who's been racing in the short-handed classes here on the south coast of the UK will have become used to seeing one particular builder occupying the top spots of the result sheets, French production giants Jeannot. Their Sunfast 3300 has proved to be a very successful model. But so too has the entire Sunfast range. The Trans-Quadra race across the Atlantic helped to put the Sunfast 3200 on the map back in 2004. The 3600 followed in 2014, and most recently it's been the 3300. All attracted the attention of solo and double-handed sailors. Jeannot agent Sea Ventures have done a great deal to raise the profile of the range and short-handed sailing in the UK. CEO Nigel Colley has long been an enthusiastic solo sailor and has done a great deal to build the amateur short-handed scene. So, with so much support among a strong fleet that loves racing, the obvious thing was to run an event. The first Sunfast Cup was in 2019 in La Trinité on the west coast of France. And after 2 very difficult years where so much of our sport was put on hold, the event is back. But this time it's Cowes that plays host.
We decided right from the start to come to Cowes for the next edition, because this is where we also here in the Solent have the second most popular fleet of Sunfast. So we decided already 4 years ago to come here. Finally we come here.
The 3-day event kicked off with an evening race, the perfect way to allow the fleet time to assemble in Cowes. This also allowed them to take advantage of a good sea breeze while getting to grips with the strong spring tides. Whilst this 1-hour race did count for points, it was largely a preparation for the next 2 days. But racing sailors the world over only have one gear, and that's to beat everyone else. Leading the charge, Shirley Robertson and Dee Campari and crew won the opening race. Johnny Cooper's Paradox was second. Impressive stuff, given that he'd only taken ownership of the boat that morning.
You think it was going to be a nice kind of gentle ease into the whole regatta, and it was full on. 45 minutes went by with a flash and it was super busy. We're campaigning a Sunfast 3300 and the focus has been around Britain and Ireland. Everything's about offshore and preparing for the big race. But when you've got a Sunfast and there's such a competitive fleet and there's so many boats that when the regatta came on, absolutely we were going to be part of it. But obviously transferring to inshore racing and being 4 up instead of 2 of us, it's taking a while to iron out some of the wrinkles and it all happens a lot quicker.
But while short-handed sailing has been a large part of the Sunfast success, the range also has been popular with full crews. But because the boats are so easy to handle short-handed, the definition of fully crewed has now been redefined. Which is why this event is open to a crew range of 2 to 4.
It's an interesting concept, having a maximum crew of 4. The reason we've done it is simply that a lot of our Sunfast owners are racing solo or double-handed, so they don't have any more crew. Whereas it's easier for the fully crewed boats to dump a few crew, so we put a crew limit of 4 just to try and be inclusive to both ends of the discipline.
How does it feel? You're used to sailing solo, you've got 3 more people on.
Oh yeah, that's a crowd, mate. I mean, I did bow today, I never do bow. That's why I became last, but no, I do bow when I'm solo, but racing with a crew is a different dynamic.
Day 2 started with very little wind, but a promise of high temperatures ashore suggested a sea breeze would develop later in the day. By lunchtime, it was starting to arrive. The day started with a couple of windward-leeward races, while the third race of the day allowed crews to stretch their legs a little more as the fleet threaded its way around the Solent. Among those who confessed to climbing a steep learning curve was Peter Bacon, who was sailing double-handed with his son.
So my prior boat was an XP44, which my son and I raced across the Atlantic in 2019, and then we did the Fastnet. And as we were going around the Fastnet Rock, I was disappointed to see a much smaller boat than me going around faster, and it seemed to be easier. So I thought, I want one of those. And so I got one, and then discovered it wasn't quite as easy as I thought. It's a lot of hard work racing this double-handed.
In what way? Tell us, what was the surprise?
Well, when you have a crew of 8, 9 or 10, you don't have to do everything. But when there's only 2 of you, you have to do at least half of everything, and sometimes everything. But it's been fun learning how to do it.
At the other end of the scale, Jean-Francois Noël has owned 2 Sunfast 3200s for a total of 10 years and was finding the going much easier. He's based in the heart of Jeannot territory on the west coast of France. So why had he come to an event in Cowes?
Because it's a Sunfast World Cup in Cowes. And we said the previous one in La Trinité, so I said, and standing in the Solent, I mean, it's quite nice. It's not that often we come, so yeah. And yeah, all of Sunfast, I think it's good. Good event, good crack.
So you normally sail with 7?
Yeah.
How difficult have you found it?
Well, for me it doesn't change anything, because anyway, I don't do anything. I just drive. So as the others. So it's a bit more organization, but I sometimes sail double-handed, so.
Day 3 delivered more of the same. With light conditions to kick off, a rerun of the previous day was in store. Or so we thought. But when it came to it, slightly lighter breezes meant that just 2 of the 3 races were run. So with a series of 6 in the bag, it was time for the silverware. In the 3600s, it was Mark Hipgrave in Bellino Rue that took the top spot. In the Sunfast 3300s, it was Johnny Cooper and crew aboard Paradox that won their class. While in the 3200 fleet, it was Jean-Francois Noël that went home with the class win. So once again, and as always, thanks so much for watching. If you like this, there's plenty more on the channel. It's been a busy old season and it's not over yet. Once again, a big thanks to our sponsors and partners, and if you'd like to join them, we'd love to have you on board. Meanwhile, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. It's free and it makes a big difference to spreading the word. Keep an eye out for the next episode because there's stacks more to come. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well. Until next time.